I promise this is the end. Okay. The last one is I want to talk to you about what research does show about post traumatic growth. I've talked to you about trauma. I was going to just try to keep this to trauma, but the positive psychology practitioner in me will not allow it because I want you to understand that there's also a science to how people grow as a result of trauma. And in the upcoming days, weeks, months, when we actually are on the other side of coronavirus, I will run more programming around how to get to post traumatic growth. But right now, I want to share with you just the mechanisms of post-traumatic growth because I believe in understanding the mechanisms. We can better understand how to deal with the trauma right now. So post-traumatic growth is what I was talking about for the people that are on this side of the equation, the upper tail of people who actually grow as a result of the trauma. And we know that there are conditions for what makes this happen. We define post-traumatic growth as surpassing what was present before the struggle with crisis has occurred. Not only surviving, but changes that are viewed as important and go beyond what was previously thought as the status quo. This is the foundation to the Better Than Before program. I'm calling it the Better Than Before movement because I really am trying to inspire people to say, we know how post-traumatic growth works. We know how resilience works. Let's put these skills into practice. So most of us wind up not just resilient, most of us wind up stronger than before, better than before. It's going beyond resilience. Post-traumatic growth is not simply a return to baseline. It's an experience of improvement that for some people is profound. And we know that post-traumatic growth has 5 elements. And what I love about these elements is not only are they used by psychologists to identify, yes, you, sir, have post-traumatic growth, but they also give us a recipe of what to do to get to post-traumatic growth. So the first one is a greater appreciation for life. We know that people have grown from the trauma when they actually show more signs of appreciation than before. And you don't need all of them, it's just some of them. And for others, a changed sense of priorities. Or we can actively do this. You can actually reflect on, what am I grateful for right now? You can actually sit down and reflect, how have my priorities changed as a result of COVID? How has my values shifted now compared to where they were before? What am I not going to go back to after this? How have I changed? They tend to show warmer, more intimate relationships with other people. We can use that as an identifier of post-traumatic growth, or we can use it as a recipe for post-traumatic growth by actually cultivating more intimacy, more connection. Sure, maybe some of you aren't gathering with 25, 30 people in person, but maybe now you're really talking to one another. There's something about the intimacy of Zoom that actually makes it a little bit more intimate. When I first would do coaching, sometimes people would ask me, like when I would do coaching online via Skype, if or Zoom existed, and they would say, well, isn't it like, you're not in person, it's not as intimate. It actually, for many people, it's more intimate because you're really facing one another. So we have amazing stories of how people are coming together and connecting with one another more now with Corona than they did before. A greater sense of personal strength is usually an element of post-traumatic growth, but it is also something we can cultivate. I have a lot of our Better Than Before participants who are literally like focusing on becoming stronger. We did 1 month of Better Than Before, and we just started our next round this week. And so for the first round, I committed, we have 2 things that we do, and a lot of different things that we're doing in Better Than Before, but one of it is we're counting down for 30 days so that we have a container around goals to set. And so while we count down, we also count up. And so one of the things that I asked people to do is to commit to, on day 1, doing 1 of something, day 2, do 2 of something, day 3, so on and so forth. So I committed to push-ups. Day 1, I did 1, day 2, I did 2, all the way down to 30 days. And we know that there's a somatopsychic connection or an embodied cognition that comes from when we change our physical state, it changes our mental state. I've never had such strong biceps in my entire life. And the other day I was like, I flexed in the mirror and my back is like super strong. I'm like, oh my God, I've never seen those muscles before. And with that physical strength, I have an emotional strength available to me as well. We know there's embodied cognition. Keep your body strong, friends. Keep your body healthy. Build your immune system. And also psychologically, really highlight your own personal strength. Many of us, when this was all happening, were probably saying to myself, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Homeschool my kids? You've got to be kidding me. Not be able to leave, not to go outside, not to be able to hug someone. We go, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do that. How am I going to do that? And then guess what? You do it. So honoring what are the things that you did and you are doing that you didn't think you could do. I talked to so many people, they're like, oh, I can't do this whole technology thing. Now they're Zooming like pros. Honor your personal strength. Mary Bridget is nodding. Thank you, Mary Bridget. I celebrate you learning technology, being on the line. Recognition of new possibilities or paths for one's life. Again, you don't need all 5 of these conditions, but it's one of the things that's present for people. But I also believe that as we consciously create new paths and new possibilities for our life, we are consciously paving the way for our post-traumatic growth. And another thing that we see is a sense of spiritual development. The way that the Bounce Back Better resilience training program is set up is we have mental skills, emotional skills, and physical skills. That would used to be those 3 pillars for the first 2 years of my running the program. That was all I taught. And then one of my students said, Amelia, why not spiritual skills? And I went inside, oh, shit, he got me. And the reason he got me was because I had this, and I'll stop the screenshot, I'll come back to in a second, around spiritual development. He called me out on the fact that, yeah, I do believe that spirituality is one of the most important things for resilience, but I was an in the closet spiritualist or whatever that's called. I don't know, like spiritual person. It's fascinating. It's my most important value. And yet it's my weakest strength. Spirituality is not one of my top strengths. And that's because I wasn't really raised with religion. But my sense of spirituality is so important to me. And I realized it's so important to me, I'm actually afraid to put it out there because I'm Amelia and I'm an academic and da-da-da. Now I welcome it and I bridge the woo-woo with the science and I love it. And I'm like, woo, this is me. But when he said that, I was like, oh shit. Yeah, he is right. If I didn't have my spiritual sense, my deep, deep, deep fundamental belief that the universe is benevolent, that life is good, that the universe is always conspiring for me, that I don't understand why these things happen, but I create meaning from it and I choose to make meaning that it is what is meant to be, that there's a natural order. That's my spiritual belief. That helps me. But then I thought to myself, but can I actually teach spiritual skills? Because the Bounce Back Better system are all skills. And then I had this realization that the spiritual is social and that that it's really a connection to something bigger than ourselves. So the way that the Bounce Back Better program now has social/spiritual skills is that I really do believe that we can actually work our spiritual muscles. There's a concept called spiritual intelligence, that we can actually measure people's spiritual intelligence. And it's not religiosity. It is a sense of connection to something greater than ourselves. And research shows, whether you believe in nature, you don't have to believe in a spirit. You can believe in just science and evolution or whatever it is that you want to believe in. It is about a connection to something greater than yourself and something that is beyond the natural and goes into the areas of the supernatural. And so it's interesting that those who grow from trauma tend to develop a greater sense of spirituality that can come through prayer, that can come through meditation, it can come through connection. And I believe that as we all deepen our own personal relationship to whatever spirituality is, whatever spirit means to you, it can help us get to post-traumatic growth and help us be more resilient. And if you're interested in like my approach to spiritual/social, we've got the skills in there. In summary, let me stop the recording and start again.